2 leagues, 7-6, 10-3, third place in both. That's freaking consistency.
Time for playoffs.
Get some.
Welcome to the Steel City. Is everybody ready to go? It's proclaim the greatest radio show.
Welcome, fans, to our Week 14 waiver claims. It is most likely fantasy playoffs for, I guess, all leagues. Does any league start playoffs after Week 14?
Yeah, they start in 15 sometimes. 15, 16, 17 they'll do.
I don't like Week 17. Too many players get sat.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, not too many, but even if it's one, if
Cam Newton's getting rested because they're, you know what I mean, they got everything wrapped up and he's your starting quarterback. That's beat.
Exactly.
Well, who do we got on the waiver wire this week?
Well, we're going to start with quarterbacks, and there's 5 of them here, actually. Marcus Mariota's available in about 55% of the leagues. Tyrod Taylor's available in about 60% of the leagues. Ryan Fitzpatrick, 55% of the leagues. And then Brian Hoyer, still 80%, and Alex Smith, 70% of the leagues. So there's a good number of quarterbacks here that you can go after. Now, most likely, since you're in the playoffs, you probably have a decent quarterback, I would guess. But let's say you don't have a quarterback right now and you're going into the playoffs, so you can go out and add 2 of these guys. I would go with Brian Hoyer and Alex Smith because look at what they've been doing. I mean, they've both been playing pretty well. In fact, Brian Hoyer last week, 293 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick at Buffalo. But look, he has New England, at Indy, at Tennessee, and versus Jacksonville. Now, New England's defense has been a little bit better against the pass recently, but after that, I'd play him at Indy, at Tennessee, and Jacksonville. And Alex Smith, he has San Diego, at Baltimore, Cleveland, Oakland. So that's great matchups right there for Alex Smith in all 4 weeks. I think I would go with Alex Smith this week and then Brian Hoyer the following week. Go back to Alex Smith and then back to Brian Hoyer, to tell you the truth. So if I didn't have a quarterback, I'd go add those 2 quarterbacks and play them, flip-flop them each week and start with Alex Smith this week.
I heard Ryan Fitzpatrick's growing his beard back because he knows his second job as a mall Santa is approaching and he's going to get cut after the season.
Very nice. But look, Fitzpatrick, he may be the best one of the bunch, but he always falls off towards the end of the season. He has Tennessee,
because he's
at
too many
Dallas,
mall trips, man.
New
He's
England,
overworked.
and at Buffalo. So while there's some beatable matchups there, and look what he's done over the past 2 games. 667 yards, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. But Miami and the New York Giants are who he played over those 2 games. And those are 2 bad defenses this season. Look, he has 34 or more pass attempts in each of his last 7 games that he started and finished. And he's been playing very well when healthy. Like I said, he was playing well, got injured, and he didn't put up the same amount of points for, a game or 2. And now he's back looking healthy, and he's playing well. Now, it's probably easier to go out and get Hoyer and Smith. At this point, Fitzpatrick may be on someone else's team, but I wouldn't mind going with him either, at least this week versus Tennessee, and then see what happens after that.
I don't know. He's not going to have much time to read the game plan this week with little kids pissing all over his legs all week.
Another guy I like this week is Tyrod Taylor, like I mentioned. Look, he goes at Philadelphia this week, and we know Philadelphia is terrible against the pass, but they did shut down New England somewhat last week, but I think that's more of a fluke than anything. Philadelphia's been terrible all season long. I don't think their defense just somehow came alive. So look what he's done too. 6 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown over the past 2 games. Kansas City and Houston. So those are 2 good defenses as well.
Do I put Sammy Watkins in the lineup this week?
Yeah, at Philadelphia I would. Unless, you have someone.
He's blown up the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, he's did it big. And Tyrod Taylor's back. He looks very good. So, yeah, definitely Sammy Watkins I like as well.
Beast.
Like I said, Mariota's playing.
He got an 80-yard run, didn't he, last week? That's a fluke. Obviously, he's not going to have that every week, but he's been surprising to me. Not even as just a fantasy guy. Like, he's been a surprising quarterback.
Yeah,
I didn't think he would play as well as he did this year.
Both of those quarterbacks have done their job this season for rookie quarterbacks, in my opinion. But Mariota, I think he's the last one I'd take out of this bunch. I'd look at maybe Fitzpatrick, but Hoyer and Smith, those 3 right there, I would look at first. All right, Sean Drawn, what's his real name?
I don't know. Sean John, I call him P.
Gotta
Diddy.
be Sean Drawn. It's much better that way. But look, he's available in about 45% of the leagues. He scored double digits each of the past 4 weeks for San Francisco. Last week he only had 36 yards rushing, but he did score a TD, and he came up with 5 catches for 50 yards. Blaine Gabbert looks pretty decent for San Francisco.
Garbage.
I mean, he's not great or anything, but he's a lot better than Colin Kaepernick.
He's garbage too.
Yeah, exactly. But Sean Jerome, whatever it is, he's been playing pretty well over the past month, and look what he has coming up this week at Cleveland. So if you're in the playoffs here and you need a running back, I think Sean Jerome's...
Didn't he used to play for Cleveland?
Yes, he did.
Redemption week.
Exactly. There you go. But look, after that, it's Cincinnati at Detroit and St. Louis. So it does get tough after that, and I'm not sure I'd 100% trust him, but definitely this week I'd try to get him in my lineup if I need a running back. James White from New England.
Steve Urkel.
He's available in about 75% of the leagues.
I do that?
Look, New England, they were playing from behind last week. That's pretty much the first time all
Ridiculous
season they were playing from behind. So really, that's why he had 10 receptions for 115 yards and a touchdown. But Gronk was out. We don't know for sure if he's coming back this week or not. I would guess somehow he finds his way back into the lineup. But no Edelman still, obviously. So James White, I mean, over the past 3 weeks, he has 2 double-digit fantasy performances, and he was a bust at Denver. He only scored 2 points. So he's a risky play. But, I mean, in a deeper league, he's not the worst play in the world because he showed last week that he can blow up for big points. He has at Houston this week, though, which is a tough matchup. Versus Tennessee, not terrible. At the New York Jets, not playing the best defense over the past few weeks. And at Miami, that's a great matchup for New England as well, and for James White. So, over the next 4 weeks, I think there's 2 matchups here that he could put up some decent points.
I read a report earlier, Johnny Manziel has officially been named the starter for this week. Any fantasy value there?
Yeah, why not? I mean, he has put up points when he starts and finishes a game. But, I mean, I'm not putting all my trust in him, especially in the playoffs here. That's tough to do. Young
Against
quarterback.
the 49ers, you would think if he's going to have any big game for the rest of the year, it could be this week.
Definitely. I mean, it's a great matchup for him. But
at home.
I'm still trying to find... I'd go Hoyer over him, I'd go Smith over him, and I'd go Fitzpatrick over him. It's still Johnny Manziel, man. We don't know what he is still.
He's a loser.
All right, then we know what he is. Another running back here, Bilal Powell. Available in about 90% of the leagues. Look what he did last week at New York, the Giants, that is. 8 catches, 91 yards, and a touchdown. Now, Chris Ivory, he's the one that gets it done on the ground. But he's stolen some value from Ivory because Bilal Powell's the one used in the passing game. And he has Tennessee, Dallas, New England, and Buffalo over the next 4 weeks. So, again, not a guy that I'm just picking up and starting no matter what or anything. But if I'm looking for a running back, Bilal Powell isn't the worst option in the world.
He's like he's not a touchdown vulture from Chris Ivory, but he's just a points vulture from Ivory. Ivory was doing it big early in the year. He's still got a lot of yards. I think Ivory's still in like the top 8 or at least the top 10 in rushing in the league this year.
Right.
But it just seems like more and more and more Ivory's just getting those between the tackle runs, and then Bilal Powell's actually getting all the fantasy value.
Bilal Powell was out for a while. He was injured, and when he came back, he took over the third down role, the passing situation role, and really, like I said, Fitzpatrick, he's thrown 34 or more passes in 7 straight games now. So the New York Jets are passing a ton, so Powell's going to be the one in there more often when they're in those situations. One other running back here, Ryan Matthews from Philadelphia, available in about half the leagues. He has double digits in 6 of his last 9 games played, but he did miss his last 3 games with a concussion. There's a lot of questions in Philadelphia's backfield right now.
Big controversy with the whole team.
Yeah, now DeMarco Murray, he's saying he lost his job as the starter. And last week, he didn't get as much playing time against New England, but then Chip Kelly comes out and says it's because of the situation. They had bigger linebackers in New England, and he felt Darren Sproles had a better matchup against him or whatever. But DeMarco Murray, I mean, he's getting it done in the passing game this season, and he still has the most carries on the team. I think he's just complaining for nothing. I mean, they came into the season...
He does have the most carries on the team. Sorry to cut you off, but Matthews is averaging almost 2 yards a carry.
I mean,
more.
We said this earlier this season. He's the change of pace back, and you see that more often than not out of change of pace backs, how they have the better yards per carry. And I'm not saying he's not the better running back at this point. I'm just saying it happens like that. I mean, if you put Ryan Matthews as a every down starter. I'm sure he's not going to put up the same averages he did when he was a change of pace back.
And I'm not buying Kelly's whole matchup BS because DeMarco Murray was the leading rusher in the league last year, a three-down back, every week. So he proved that he could play in any type of down, distance, whatever it was. He should not be being taken off the field. I think Chip Kelly's just not using DeMarco right is the biggest problem.
Well, yeah, I think it was sort of a in-game situation. I mean, if Darren Sproles is breaking off big runs, then you just go to Darren Sproles. You don't just keep giving DeMarco Murray the ball when he's losing 3 yards per carry. You know what I mean? They took a committee approach in that game after Murray. I mean, Murray started the game, obviously, and he wasn't running well. So after that, they took a committee approach. I don't think they're just going to shy away from DeMarco Murray, though, and not give him the ball anymore. They'll give him chances, and if he's not getting it done, and Darren Sproles or Ryan Matthews or whoever is, I mean, they're going to go to that guy, obviously. But Philadelphia, I'm telling you, if whoever the starting running back is, if there's going to be a guy that gets 20 carries or whatever, I don't think he's going to be that great because Philadelphia's offensive line is terrible to begin with.
There was an article that said Murray went all the way to owner Jeffrey Lurie with the problem and to not necessarily complain, but voice his displeasure with the way he's being utilized in the offense. And I just don't think Chip Kelly's offense suits DeMarco Murray's running style. He's a north-south guy who makes one cut and gets to the hole. And Kelly likes more of that, maybe bounce outside, spring it here or there. It's more of a fast-paced offense. We keep saying in the NFL, if you throw too much, you're going to turn the ball over a lot. Kelly's idea of the more plays you have, the better chance you have to be successful. It works in college. It almost is working against him in the NFL because it's giving his offense too many plays to turn the ball over.
So what we have here, go add Ryan Matthews if he's out there. But I'm not really playing him this week. He goes up against Buffalo. That's a tough matchup in the running game. So after that, Arizona, Washington, and the New York Giants. So the final 2 weeks of the season, maybe, if you play in Week 17, the New York Giants, that's a good matchup. Outside of that, I'd pick up Matthews, and if somehow he does become the starting running back or whatever, then you have a starting running back. But I'm not just picking him up and putting him in my lineup necessarily.
F the Eagles.
All right, receivers, Michael Floyd, still available in about 30% of the leagues. He's had 4 straight double-digit fantasy performances from weeks 6 to 10, and then he missed the Cincinnati game with a hamstring injury. Then he had just 2 targets in limited playing time the following week off of that injury. But last week he bounced back big. 12 targets, 7 receptions for 104 yards at St. Louis. Not the worst defense in the world, but they're not playing their best right now either. But Michael Floyd, he's been one of the better receivers out there in Arizona since returning from that early season injury. Somewhat of a tough matchup this week, but we've seen Seattle blow up Minnesota this past week, so I have no reason to think Arizona can't do it. So I like Michael Floyd moving forward because after that he has Philadelphia, Green Bay, and then in Week 17, Seattle if you're still playing. You wouldn't maybe not want to play him there, but over the next 3 weeks, Michael Floyd should be a very nice play for you.
Arizona offense, everybody's a nice play, except for Chris Johnson because his legs broke.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely want to play Larry Fitzgerald. You definitely want to play Michael Floyd. You want to play whoever their starting running back is in that game. And then John Brown, if he's healthy, I'd play him too.
How smart do I look by drafting Larry Fitzgerald this year? And it was only because I like him better than the other receivers. It wasn't that I thought he was going to do as well as he did this year.
Great pick. What round was that too? It's not like he was a top pick.
It might have been like around 8 to 10, somewhere in there.
Very
I got
nice.
him.
That's about where I got Allen Robinson. Beast man.
He's crazy good.
All right, how about Doug Baldwin? Speaking of crazy good,
this guy killed the Steelers 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, he's available in about 35% of the leagues. He also killed it this week against Minnesota. 5 catches, 94 yards, and 2 more touchdowns. So he has 11 receptions, 239 yards, and 5 touchdowns over the past 2 weeks. He has 4 straight double-digit fantasy performances, at least 5 catches in all 4 of those games. And look at what he has coming up. At Baltimore and versus Cleveland over the next 2 weeks. Then he has St. Louis, who has fallen off defensively. Yeah, that's what I was just saying. And at Arizona, it's a tough one. But over the next 2 weeks, he has great matchups. And Seattle's offense has really put it together here over the past couple weeks.
Russell Wilson's playing very well over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
He's on pace to he's on pace to have 4,500 total yards, rushing and passing combined, and 29 touchdowns this year, which is, I'm pretty sure, a career high in both for him.
Yeah, so Doug Baldwin looks like a great play right now. And that's why I'm going to mention Tyler Lockett, too. He's available in about 80% of the leagues. He has double digits over his last 3 games. Now, he has 15 targets in that span. That's about 5 targets a game. But he caught 14 of those passes, has 2 touchdowns in that span. And if you get points for the return game, he's used in that as well. So Tyler Lockett's starting to put it together as well, as Russell Wilson does and the rest of this offense here without Marshawn Lynch.
Even Rawls is doing it big against defenses that he shouldn't be.
Yeah, exactly. They're really putting it together, man. They're starting to look like a favorite again for the Super Bowl.
I mean, obviously I don't want to say obviously. It's not too surprising they struggled a little early in the year. They've played so many freaking games over the last 2 years, and they play such a physical style. They had Cam Chancellor out. The offense just wasn't clicking right. This looks like the real Seattle team. Them and Pittsburgh look like the 2 scary wildcard teams from each conference.
I'd agree with that.
Pittsburgh-Seattle rematch, boy.
All right, 3 more receivers here. Devontae Parker, available in about 70% of the leagues. He was one of our sleepers, deep sleepers last week. I don't know. But look, he came up with 3 catches, 63 yards, and a touchdown versus Baltimore. The week prior to that, 4 catches, 80 yards, and a touchdown at the New York Jets. He had 15 targets combined over those 2 games. He has the New York Giants this week. After that, he is at San Diego, and then versus Indy, who we've seen just get blown up, in New England, who stops the run with the best of them. You have to pass against them. So 4 great matchups for Devontae Parker coming up over the next month, and he's starting to get involved in this offense now that Rashard Matthews went down with that rib injury.
Miami, you never know what you're going to get out of them. They're an odd offense.
They're just bad defense, and I mean, they didn't have the type of year that people were hoping they could have because Ryan Tannehill just hasn't had the same type of season he had last year either.
Believe it.
But I still like Jarvis Landry a ton. Lamar Miller does it big. Devontae Parker, he's starting to come into his own as well.
Landry had a little fit on the sidelines this week.
It's because he wasn't getting his passes. That's how those top receivers are, man. If they don't get their catches, they're pissed.
Crybabies. Get him a Whamburger and some French fries.
Ted Ginn Jr., available in about 65% of the leagues.
He's got the dropsies, but he's doing it big for Carolina this year.
Yeah, at New Orleans last week, 10 targets, just 5 catches. I think he did have 3 drops, but he came up with 2 touchdowns for 80 yards. Look, he has 8 or more targets in 5 of the last 7 games, 3 double-digit fantasy performances over the last 4 weeks. Look, over the next 4 weeks, Atlanta, the Giants, Atlanta, and Tampa Bay. Now, Atlanta's actually not too terrible against fantasy wide receivers, but Cam Newton and that offense are doing it big, and he has been targeted a lot over the past month and a half, so Ted Ginn Jr. isn't the worst play in the world. Flex option, nothing better than that, though.
David, what the funchess is going on is starting to get some more targets, so yeah I agree. Flex,
and I mean, Greg Olsen got to be the guy out there right now as well.
Yeah, please throw it to Greg Olsen.
Just think next year, if Kelvin Benjamin can come back healthy, man, Devin Funchess in his second season, if he can take a step forward, and then Greg Olsen, the way that offense is rolling right now.
Especially if they can draft a compliment to Jonathan Stewart and keep his legs a little fresher, because he's having a good year too.
Yeah, I mean, their defense is beast. We'll have to look in to see what they really need before we do our mock draft.
They haven't lost a regular season game in so freaking long.
Green-Beckham, how about this guy? Available in about 85% of the leagues.
Lowered the boom on somebody. Did you see that? On one of his plays, he caught a pass and just lowered the shoulder and just ran right through the guy.
119 yards, a touchdown, 5 receptions. It was his 3rd double-digit fantasy performance this season, so he hasn't been consistent at all. There's games where he isn't even a factor at all, but he has 5 or more targets in each of his last 3 games and in 4 of his last 5 games. He has the Jets, New England, Houston, and Indy. Like I said, maybe Houston's a pretty good defense against the pass right now. They've been playing better. But the other 3 teams here, I mean, very beatable. And it looks like Green-Beckham may be getting involved with Mariota playing a lot better recently as well. I think he has, 10 touchdowns in his past 5 games or something. And 2 of those games he had none. The other 3, he had at least 3. So he's having big games and he's having down games. But it looks like Green-Beckham's getting on the same page with him now.
Get some, young blood.
And tight end, Austin Seferian-Jenkins.
You just want this guy to play good so bad. You love him.
Now, look, he's available in about 60% of the leagues. Look, his first game back after missing 9 games, he had 6 targets, just 3 catches for 31 yards. So it wasn't a big game, but he has New Orleans this week, who is the worst team in the league at stopping tight ends. Yes, they're worse than the Pittsburgh Steelers, man.
I don't believe it.
But I think this is a great play for Seferian-Jenkins. This guy is a good tight end, and I know he didn't have the big week last week, but this is a great matchup for him. Like I said, Winston's been playing better recently. I think Seferian-Jenkins is going to break out and have a big week here. I'm going to make him one of my situational starters or sleepers or something in our segment tomorrow. Why not?
So should I drop Delaney Walker and pick him up?
Nah, Delaney Walker's been playing very well, man. No way.
Delaney's got a tough matchup against the Jets, New England, and Houston in the next 3 weeks, though.
It is tough. I mean, see what happens this week first, man. And if you win and don't like what Delaney gives you and Seferian-Jenkins, I mean, he got to blow up, though. If Seferian-Jenkins puts up 12 points against New Orleans, I wouldn't be happy with that at all.
What about Julius Thomas? He's got Indy, Atlanta, and then New Orleans.
I like Julius Thomas, too.
So
He's
I
out
should
there?
Drop him? No, I have him.
Oh.
Drop him for ASJ.
It's tough. I think I'd keep Thomas as well, man.
I don't know. He hasn't done nothing for me this year.
What did he do last week?
He only had 3 double-digit fantasy performances this year.
In how many games? He missed the first 4 or 5 games.
He didn't have a point in the first 4 games, so I think he missed those.
Yeah.
He had 4, 20, then 1, bye week, 4, 4, 13, 29, 9.
Yeah, so 13, 29, 9 over the past 3 weeks?
Garbage.
Not garbage! Wow.
Well, he was on my bench all 3 weeks, so screw him.
That's it.
That's it? That's all we got?
Yeah.
We don't have another 25 guys? Who's your favorite out of any of these guys?
Bobby Hoyer.
Bubby, you love that dude too.
Well,
You would Bubby Hoyer threw it to ASJ. You'd be the happiest guy.
Now look,
in the
I
world.
like Michael Floyd. You know I like Michael Floyd.
There's your
as well.
wide receiver, and then DeMarco Murray would be your running back. Boom, there's your offense.
DeMarco Murray isn't even on this list. What are you talking about? I'm thinking blah pow.
Well, that's it, fans. Anybody you have questions about, hit us up on Twitter at bet_the_spread. Hit me up on Twitter at betjimthewin. Any fantasy questions you have, you can also direct to our Facebook page at facebook.com/betthespread. Keep coming back to YouTube. Click and subscribe. 209 subscribers. I want to see that be 210 by the end of the day. Maybe 211.